Hi, today is Thursday, May 27th. This is the SIG Architecture Enhancement Subproject meeting, and welcome. That was a terrible intro. Just as a reminder, we are under the CNCF Kubernetes Code of Conduct, so be good to everyone. And if you ever have any problems, just let me know. We're going to start today with the agenda. We have a couple items. So we're going to start with Anna, the second. Let's start with the second topic on the list. If you want to take it away, Anna.
Sure. It's actually related to the first one. So, well, I guess let's just talk about it then. So, I guess, well, okay, so I'm just gonna talk about the first one because it's related.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so
for the record, we're doing. Oh wait, should I don't. Do I need to share my screen, or I don't really think so. But there's not that many words.
No, it's usually you only share your screen if there's.
Okay, cool.
The
first one is about. I'm just gonna do my intro then. The first one is called Anna on behalf of Jeremy. Close this current receipt app. Anna, take it away.
Yeah, so there was a discussion or thread that Jeremy posted on Slack asking us feedback on the current receipt cab and asking feedback on whether we should close it or keep it open. And I think a lot of us said, let's close it because it doesn't actually meet the current goal, or we should rethink the process a little bit. And I think that's where the survey came from. So that's the second bullet point on whether how we should gather feedback, because I do agree that we probably need more end user feedback to figure out the focus of what we should improve on. So I think that should be our focus right now. I don't know if everyone agrees with that, but I just wanted to start a conversation on how we might go about doing that.
So one quick question. Did you mean end users or end users as in contributors in the KEP process?
Contributors to the KEP process.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Well,
just
for
wanted
me,
to make sure.
Oh, go ahead. I guess for me, there's two things. Like, I thought that he was going to send an email for the current receipt cap just to get like broader thumbs up, thumbs down on that. So, oh wait, is anybody taking notes? Sorry.
I am.
Okay, cool. So I don't think that I saw an email about that yet. Did anybody?
No, I didn't.
Okay, so maybe the action item would just be to find out for that one, to find out if he's going to send out an email before we formally close it, or make like a formal decision about that, because I know that he said that he was going to do that, just because maybe Slack isn't the only forum for that. But I guess for the second bullet point, like, part of me feels like the survey that you're asking for should really be done through SIG release, especially because like they own the opt-in process and their spreadsheet and everything. And potentially, I mean, there is such a thing as like feedback fatigue. And I feel like, if SIG release does the questionnaire and they can share some of their survey results with us, that would be great. But also, I think like Jeremy and Nabarun and the rest of enhancements might have some ideas about whether or not a receipts process makes sense, or like the direction to go in. I guess the one thing that I'm worried about is just gathering feedback just to gather feedback without sort of a targeted and focused point that we're trying to get, but also that this really, on the current process, it would really be like a SIG release type feedback, since they own that current process. So yeah, I see Nabarun's hand is up.
Yeah, so 2 comments. What I wrote on Slack. So I don't think we need to send an email to close it, because it was again a provisional discussion, and closing also does not mean like close permanently. It's just closing the PR. So these are just like housekeeping things. On the second point, we do need to send a survey. Who and what, that's what we can discuss. But I feel like uh, it's just not on SIG release and the release team. It's also on us as a sub project who have like deep stakes into the enhancement process. As in, the whole thing is kind of owned by us. SIG release and the release team's enhancement sub team just facilitates it on our behalf in the release. So we do need to find some questions on the survey. Now, where should we discuss? Not sure, because I feel like enhancement subproject people, release team, enhancement team people from the recent few releases and the current release should be part of the discussion. And those are my thoughts.
Well, for the first point, how about then our action item would just be, let's verify with Jeremy that we don't need to set that, like he's not going to send the email, you know, just to give him the space if he wanted to do that, to like ack or knack that. And then depending on what he says, we can close it. I guess for the survey, I'm just a little iffy on like, we can't, like, when you send a survey, you really need to have like a goal that you're trying to get. And the more general a survey is, the less useful it is. And so I feel like we really need to figure out what we're trying to get from that, other than just like general thoughts, because I just think that there is such a thing as survey fatigue, and it does need to be targeted to whatever our goals are. And as of right now, I don't think that we have any particular goals other than just like sending a survey, which I don't think is going to like facilitate a lot of actionable information.
We do have a goal. The main question is, are you happy with the current enhancements process? If yes, why? If not, why? And should not be this simple. Just that if you are not happy, there should be some more objective questions as to understand more metrics. But I think we do have a goal. The whole receipts process discussion started with enhancing the enhancements process. Just that I don't think we all agree right now that that is good thing. I myself don't think like adding one more artifact as a burden for the contributors without even asking for feedback is good. So that's where this discussion came in for a survey. And the survey does have a goal, is that are you happy with the current enhancements process? Adding, doing what like filing caps and doing processes on that, and then the opt-in thing. So what Anna wrote, soliciting feedback on the opt-in process.
Yeah, I actually agree with that, because once we close the receipt process or receipt cap, it's like, what is this group trying to do, right? Like, I want us to focus on something, and that something will come from feedback from users who, creates the enhancement cap. So I think we're trying to understand, what do they need help with? Like, what should we improve? And I think we will get that from the survey.
Yep. Also, like I have seen like people dissenting against the process. So I feel like we really should like send out something to the contributor community to understand like where people feel that the process is hectic. To get
I would just say that we really have to work with SIG release on this, because like 3/4 of the complaints are probably going to be about the collection process as opposed to like actual KEP stuff. So that's part of my concern, is just like getting the right people involved in a survey and getting the right questions asked in the survey, because like SIG release owns the opt-in process. And if we're going to get a lot of feedback about that, then they kind of need to own that. But also the idea that you don't want to send people like 50 surveys about different things, and the surveys should be focused and tight. And you don't want to overburden people with surveys. And since SIG release is probably also interested in this, and the release team is also interested in this, there should probably be some tight coordination on this so that we're not like sending out 50 surveys to people and they just start sort of not responding or giving us information that's not necessarily relevant to us and would be relevant to SIG release. So I guess that's my main point, because like the way that you send a survey and the process that you do it can determine what kind of results you're going to get from it. Bob?
Yeah, I just wanted to go back and like talk about sort of the like briefly go over the sort of like breakdown of what enhancements is as far as a SIG Arch subproject versus release itself. I think you actually covered that pretty well the last statement, like, and the enhancement subproject does not cover the actual collection or sort of the facilitation of the process. They own the sort of, you know, the various metadata things we need to track. Sorry about that. And sort of the overall how, you know, it's just like what we need from KEPs to drive things forward. And how it's sort of like how I also see like steering and Contribx, where steering sort of decides the policy and Contribx is the executors of the policy. And it's sort of that the way I see that for like enhancements and the enhancements release team. Does that sort of make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Actually, I was wondering, because I was thinking about this a lot, but could I bring up my last bullet point, because it's semi-related to this bullet point that we're discussing now? And the thing that I was thinking about was, in general, like I want to have a KEP template. Oh wait, did I just delete it? Where did it go?
I moved it up because we're talking about it.
Oh,
right?
cool, thanks. Something that I wanted us to explore, which is more closely related to the actual KEP instead of the process, was KEP versioning. Because one of the problems that I think that we're having or going to have is that like tooling and other things, we currently don't have a way to have a version of a template. So we can't tell the release team, hey, like everybody needs to be on this version, especially as time goes on. And also that I think we want to stop making incremental changes to the KEP template. Like I think that it would be a lot easier if we say, hey, like this is the whatever. I don't know what time period. I'm going to try to write up something for this, but some kind of time period, or, you know, you should be updated to the May 2020 template version. And as such, I was going to say, well, maybe we should have a sort of a different directory where it's like the sort of in progress KEP template where we would be merging changes and can get feedback on that. But I guess I was thinking if the sub-project, like Bob was saying, is more focused on the actual KEP, like once we can can better organize the actual like KEP change process and KEP versioning process, that's a place where we could ask for very actionable feedback related to the enhancement sub-project about the KEP. Like after, you know, we kind of think about it more and we sort of identify, you know, changes that we might want to make, to then go out to, you know, SIG leads, maybe the release team, PRR people, API reviewers, conformance test people, and try to like get the KEP to be tighter and more efficient for everybody. And so that was something that I was thinking about for like an enhancements related survey, as opposed to like a more process related survey that I was interested in doing. But that would require like a little bit of pre-work, just because I want to be able to have a way to get feedback from people that's also actionable and to have things like done in a more organized fashion. So just on like the survey tip, like that's like an enhancement sub-project survey that I was interested in doing, not like super ASAP, because I'd like to get it organized a little bit better and get all of our thoughts and a process set up for sort of iterating on the template in a more organized way. So those are just my thoughts, and it seemed like semi-related to the above point. Bob?
So I am very much in +1 towards versioning the KEP template. Like that was actually sort of what I visioned a long time ago, of versioning both the KEP template along with the KEP metadata itself, because then it'd be really easy to like attach a version just like we do in our normal Kubernetes APIs. To then like see like, hey, this is this state. and we do need to +1 it, or this is the validation criteria at this point in time, this is the validation criteria now, it becomes easier to see what must be changed. And then as far as like some of the metadata and generator type stuff, like we have the open API spec that we use for CRDs. It'd be pretty easy to do, like define some of this stuff together.
Yeah. I was also thinking like if there are changes to the KEP template, it would also be a little bit easier to get feedback on that, because we're not doing PRs directly to the like active template. Like say we have totally words are escaping me right now, but let's say we had a like whatever work in progress or perspective like KEP template directory, and say like people did some PRs to that and we thought, oh, hey, these look pretty good, like let's merge them in, then that's something that we can also send to like a semi-broader group of people and say, hey, like these are some of the changes that we're thinking of. What do you think of these changes? Are there any changes that would help like facilitate you filling out the KEPs in a more workable way? And they can look at this version, like still use the old version and comment on it, make PRs to it. And then like once we feel like it's settled, we can then like replace the current version with that version. But it gives us like I think like a better like artifact to discuss, as opposed to like just like random PRs that the greater community just isn't going to be like paying attention to.
It reminds me of like staging or release.
Staging,
or release candidate or something like that for people to get feedback on.
Yeah, no, because I know that like Nabarun like is very like always reminds me like he's interested in getting community input, and I'm thinking like I see a lot of problems with the KEP template being workable, or what kind of ways can you actually get feedback that makes sense? And like sometimes general questions are great, but it's also really effective when you have something to refer to and you have something to say, this is the thing that we're all talking about. If you have any comments about this, generally that's great. Like send me an email, or you can leave actual like comments or a pull request or something like for this specific artifact. And I think it can kind of anchor a discussion a little bit, but it also means that we won't be rolling out changes to the KEP template that kind of suck. And we might be getting more actionable feedback about things that people find confusing. Like, hey, like, what does this really mean? Like, can we clarify this? Or, hey, like, you actually don't need this for beta, or whatever it is, like to anchor it in this artifact, I think could be like super helpful. So I kind of like, I want to have like a versioning policy and work on that, but I also more immediately kind of want to build a little bit of consensus, and I can like, I guess, bring this up in Slack as well about like having a sort of staging directory for the KEP template, and that that's where PRs to the template should go into, so that those changes are visible and diffable, right? They're diffable against the current version, so that we don't just roll them out randomly, and we can, sort of get feedback on them, especially if they're like more substantive changes, and articulate those changes a little bit better, instead of just merging straight into the template all the time. So I guess that would be step one, just making the new staging directory, and then working on like some sort of versioning policy. If other people think that that's interesting, that was an idea I was kicking around my head.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great idea, but I also want to just like go back to like the whole receipt KEP, like, so that's process related. So is that like SIG release? Should that have been more focused on SIG release? I'm only asking because I don't want to lose track of what we were trying to do for that. And by just like closing it, dropping it, and focusing on something else, like we are doing that. So I just want to make sure that whatever the problem we were trying to solve as a group for that, like, is still something that we're going to try to do, I guess.
Sorry, I don't mean to interject without raising my hand. The like, I do think that the KEP does sort of cover both groups. I think it's technically owned by the enhancements team, or not by enhancements, by SIG Arch, just because, and then the participating SIG is SIG release, and SIG release would own the process part, and too many process parts. The collection process part, if that makes sense.
Got it. I guess from our point of view then, the enhancements of projects group, was there something from that KEP that we should keep focusing on, or like, do you think we can just, it was more process based and it was more like SIG release thing?
I mean, I think that the tooling, like, I think that it's also the idea that if the enhancement sub-project wants to create tooling, which then becomes the new collection process, then like the enhancement sub-project is able to do that. But I think, at least for me, the opt-in process solves a lot of the initial pain points from that the receipts process was hoping to create. So that's why I'm kind of interested in seeing what kind of feedback SIG release gets about the actual like release process from people, and if it's something where it's like streamline the opt-in process, but people think that it's working well, versus like, hey, this sucks and we need something else. That's kind of like where I'm at for that. But I do think that the tooling is really valuable, but I also think that the tooling would benefit from having like these version KEPs and other things. And so, I mean, I think the tooling is always like just an open idea of like, how can tooling make enhancements better generally?
It's to reduce the toil.
Yeah. But I think I maybe an action item could be like, if Anna maybe wants to, like, I mean, she's on SIG release as well, like on the release team, but kind of wants to bring this up in SIG release about whether or not they're going to be collecting any information about feedback for the enhancements process, and like when they plan on timing that. And maybe we can add some questions to that, or make sure that like our interests are also covered in that survey.
I'm sorry. The other like little thing I wanted to mention would be to, like, I don't want to like add more hands, but there are some people, and I just want to call it specifically, like Josh Burkus and Contribex, who essentially like specialize in refining surveys to get like what you actually want out of them. So it might be worth just like, when this does start to come together, plussing him in on the conversation.
That sounds great. Anna, is that something that you could kind of touch base with SIG release for? Because I know like the release team doesn't really send out surveys because it's like a more transient team, but is that something that you could follow up on just to get information about their plans for a survey?
Yeah, sure. I can do that.
Cool. Maybe we should write down the Josh Burkus thing too. But then that way we can kind of figure out what questions we'd like in there and sort of make sure that it's tailored to get some of the feedback that we want. I think that could be cool. So yeah, and then there's 2 small PRs ready for review. I think, are these your PRs, Anna?
It is, yeah. It's really small, so if
cool.
anyone has time to review, they're there. So
yeah, I meant to get to them, but I was like in a semi crazed state this week, so I didn't get to re-review them, but I'll do that later today.
Cool.
And then I see Luke and Eddie are here. So are there any sort of topics that either one of you want to bring up? No?
No, I'm just absorbing.
Okay, absorb away.
Yeah, just absorbing as well.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so cool. I guess I should make an action. So we have one action item to just verify that we're with Jeremy, that we're not necessarily going to send an email before that's closed, the receipts process is closed. That doesn't mean that any of that will not be used in the future, but just that that's not something that's being pursued in the immediate present. Anna's going to get in touch with SIG Release about a survey and kind of see what their plans are. And then we're probably going to talk about what the content of that might be to better reflect some of the feedback that we would like for enhancements and coordinate with them. And then once the survey gets going, we're going to try to pull in Josh Burkus just to make sure that whatever survey form that is ends up being awesome, because he's an awesome survey person. And then I'm going to throw out the idea of an immediate staging directory for the KEP template, because that's something that we can just do sort of pretty quickly and put some clarity into that. And then I'm going to try to work on like a proposal for a KEP template sort of feedback versioning thing, hopefully in the next couple of weeks. And I'll share that with everyone. I guess it would be a KEP, but I'm not sure. I might just do like some kind of draft document first, just to get some feedback before I do anything more formal. But I will hopefully have an update on that next week. And the other thing, just to pitch my KEP versioning, is I think like if we get a good handle on the actual normal KEP template, then it becomes a little bit easier to think about other kinds of KEP templates that we have. Like if we have a process template, or we have, sort of templates that have a little bit less of a bar because they're not necessarily like major feature work. I do think that we need like a way to easily iterate and control what that looks like and talk about it as well. So that was my other idea of why having some sort of versioning process would, I think, be overall net positive, just for all of our future plans, because I don't think that we really thought about that very much. So yeah, sorry, I'm so tired, like I'm babbling, so I apologize.
No worries.
That was a good summary, so thank you.
Cool. And yeah, I think that'll be cool though. I don't like, the one thing that bothers me though is like I kind of wish that if you have like this, okay, I'm just talking out loud again. If you had this staging directory that has like this work in progress kind of KEP template, and we're saying, hey, like, can we have some feedback on this? One of the things is like, if we did, let's say we did send out a targeted enhancement survey about the KEP template. Yeah, I'm just also brainstorming like what would be some of the better ways to get feedback on that. Would it be pull requests? Would it be using like a hackmd file? Would it be like using something that allows people to sort of add notes? Like, I'm not sure, but I actually think that it's going to help us get a little bit better communication and transparency with the community. So I'm going to write something up and like put it in the Slack, and hopefully we can get the directory thing going soon. But yeah, I'm like super interested in everybody like giving some feedback and thinking about like what kind of cadence do you want the versioning to take, like all sorts of things like that. So I'll probably try to get that sort of up hopefully before the next meeting.
Actually, if this is a little bit of a rush job, but with the chairs and TLs meeting, I think it's next week.
Okay.
That might be a good time to, ask for feedback on the idea. Let me look at the calendar really quick. It might be.
Well, I can at least whet their appetite. I can at least like say like, hey guys, there's going to be something amazing coming. Not amazing, but.
Okay, no, the first one is on the 8th. I'm sorry. But anyway, like that's give folks a preview or talk about it there.
Yeah, I think like I could definitely have like a paragraph blurb, if not something for them to actually comment on, but just to kind of raise some awareness that that's an improvement that we're going to be making and seeking feedback on it, so that it doesn't come as like a super surprise. And I think people will be interested, because it also solves the problem of like, I don't know, like how do you give feedback on the KEP? Like maybe there is something in the KEP that's really confusing for everybody, and we don't really have like a great way to.
I do have actually
to fix it, like.
So I don't want to scroll too much, and I think we're technically over time.
No, we go to 10:45.
10:45. Okay.
Yeah.
Then the one thing we might want to do too is at least give people a way to provide anonymous feedback, either on the survey form or something else. just so people don't, you know what I mean. Like
Yeah.
sometimes people will be concerned about that sort of thing. But if we want the like people's real thoughts on it,
Yeah.
we make it anonymous, and that will help. We
Yeah.
give them a method to, like, if you want us to reach out to you,
Yeah. No,
type
for
put
sure.
your email in here.
For sure. Yeah, I always like those kind of surveys anyway. But yeah, so I'm gonna add Anna. Is there anything else anybody wants to talk about, like how things are going, or any enhancements related issues that we're having?
Well, I think one thing that I think we talked about in the past is that PRR YAML file. Like if we could automate that, I don't know. I remember like somebody mentioning something that they're working on it or something. Is that something that anyone knows? Because that's something that is really visible. Everyone like forgets to make that sometimes, and then like it's something that could easily be automated. So I don't know if that's on
Right.
us or PRR team. I don't know what the relationship from.
So you mean, oh yeah, because right now my understanding is like we have our template, and the template's just the readme.md and then the kept.yaml, but there's no like PRR.yaml with the reviewers or anything in there, and the author has to make it. And then they forget, right?
Right.
So the question would be like, is that something that we want to have sort of living in the template, or somehow give it more visibility? I can follow up with the PRR people and see what they think, and then depending on what they say, like get a card up, and maybe we can just add it to the template. I just wanted to like double check like their thoughts on it, but that could be cool. I agree.
Yeah.
Okay, so that would be I'll follow up with them just to see, like, maybe there's a reason. Maybe they don't want everybody having a PRR template or no. So
I think that's it.
yeah. Now, Barun, is there anything else that you'd like to bring up? Oh, we have a new arrival. No, we don't. Hi.
Wave.
What's up, Mike?
Hey.
I'm just checking in, see if anybody's talking about my cap.
No, nobody's talking about your cap.
That's the problem. Okay, never mind. I'll leave.
So just for a summary, your cap didn't get into 122 because I don't think that your SIG like chimed in for your exception approval, right? Okay. Correct.
It happens. There were some changes requested on the last day, I think.
Yeah.
But we'll see. They may change their mind.
Okay, cool. But there's nothing stopping you from getting it ready for the next release ASAP.
Oh,
it can't hold you up.
It's ready. I've updated the cap and I pushed the changes.
Cool.
I wasn't calling to complain. I was just checking out, see how you guys were doing.
We're doing good. We're doing good. But yeah, I think for that enhancement, if you get the approvals, then just let the release team know in the SIG release channel. I think that there's a thread already, and you can kind of try to push your SIG. But yeah, that should be cool. That happens. And is there anything else? Luke is just listening. Anna, Nabu, Bob.
All good.
All good. Nabu, you're good.
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, the process. I see there was a question. What about the opt-in? The process seems fairly usable. It's just every time there's a change to it, it is a little confusing to the older caps. What do I need to change now? And
yeah,
we're not all imbued in the changes that are happening. So we find out about them later. Rather than sooner. It's a little tricky to catch up.
We were literally talking about that earlier today, earlier in
Yeah.
this call.
It's just wait a minute, and it's hard for when you're coming in from the other side to know
Yeah.
why the changes happen, because usually it's just, no, here's the new process, and oh, here's how you file an exception this time. It seems like it's a little, it's a living process, right? Things are
Yeah.
moving along, and
Well, the exception process is basically the same. The opt-in process is a bit different, but if you have any like feedback for the opt-in process, there is a release team retro where I think you can add your feedback as well. I can find that and send that to you on Slack. Just like if there are some specific points to that that you like find to be for points of friction, then that's something
I wouldn't say it's not friction. It's just there are changes. I was very pleased with a lot of the help I was getting, from the various teams, the PRR reviewers and things like. People were involved, and that's good. And there's always too many features that need to get in or want to get in, so that's all understandable. But
well, we're working on like bettering our communication in general. So that was actually what we talked about a lot in this meeting, and I know that that's also something that SIG Release is thinking about a lot as well, how to better sort of articulate changes and let the community know in advance of what the expectations will be. So I think that we definitely hear you, and that's something that we're all like very focused on.
I would say it as an outsider that works on open source projects all the time, navigating the space is very tricky. There's an original issue in the KK repo. There's an enhancement issue. There's a KEP PR. There's the PR itself. So, and then there's the email for chain that you need to track and manage as well for the SIG node, and then there's the Slack communities that you have to be involved in. I'm running out of fingers, right, on the places that you need to be involved in if you're just trying to get a feature in. It's intimidating. Let's put it that way. It makes you want, geez, do I have to do another KEP? This is a lot of work.
It's work. It's work even for the people that are involved in it day to day.
Yes, exactly. And when you come in from the outside, where do I gotta go? Where do I go next?
I will
told
say,
to go over here. It's not easy.
Yeah, I will say, like, in general, feature issues are not really looked at in KK. Like, that is not like that. That was the place to start.
That's where the one I'm fixing was 5 years old.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm starting from a 5-year-old process, and I'm trying to move it forward. And I'm saying, wait a minute, so here, no, wait.
But luckily, I mean, SIG Node especially has like really taken a lot of control over their feature and KEP process, and I know that it's still
which is in another place. We got spreadsheets that we have to go update in Google Doc. That's 9, almost to 10. It's just a lot. That's all.
Well, some of those you personally don't have to worry about. That's for the SIG to, fill out and worry about, and it's really up to you to just, try to get their attention and their priority for your enhancement.
Right.
But they've been doing a lot of really good work to try to bring some sort of order to the chaos, because they do get most of the, I would say, Anna can correct me, but they get most of the enhancements every release cycle. So they're really digging themselves out from being underwater, and they've been doing a great job.
Yeah, coming from the outside, generally there's a source of truth for the discussion around the feature, as opposed to these different locations. We usually use GitHub.
Yeah. So the general direction is to try and drive it to the enhancements repo being the source of truth.
Okay.
It's also like it is a long-term process.
Okay.
Slowly trying to get everyone to converge there.
Cool. Well, that actually helps a lot. So what I can do is when I'm conversing in these other spaces, I can point to the source of truth in the enhancements on the enhancements issue, or is it the the enhancements PR.
Well, I mean, you really have to just, I think, communicate with your SIG and communicate however they, they prefer. So if that's attending the SIG meeting, if that's,
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
talking to those, because they're the ones who own the KEP and they're the ones who shepherd it through the process and sort of prioritize it within all of the other things. And once they do that and they're able to give it enough energy and time, then it goes through pretty quickly.
I got you.
So
the whole PRR process is really going to be derivative from the SIG. So you would ask the SIG, are you guys okay with this? So if I've convinced the SIG guys that, then it's okay.
I mean, in general, if a SIG gives your enhancement a green light and you're getting all of the reviews that you need on your KEP, then that's going to facilitate the process, and then you're going to get your PRR done, and that's part of the process. And then it's just going to be kind of shepherded through. If there's any sort of, but then they also have a limited capacity, so they have to kind of pick and choose like what they can do, because and so it's like your enhancement might have sort of fallen by the wayside a little bit just from a capacity point of view. But
I got all the reviews in. For mine, it was it was a case where the SIG had decided originally to go right to GA and treat it as a fix, right? My particular KEP. But then on the last review, on the last day, there was a change to it to make it go to alpha with an enhancement switch. So that changed the whole from the KEP down, the whole process had to change, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we defer to the SIG's subject matter expertise on all of it. So if that's what they thought was the best, then it was probably ultimately for the best. But
I didn't have a disagreement. It's just
But we're actually past our time. So we were slated to end at 10:45, and I think we had a really productive conversation today with a bunch of action items. So I guess let's reconvene in 2 weeks, and hopefully we have some updates for that. And I hope everybody has a great long weekend if you have a holiday on Monday. And it's just always a pleasure talking to everyone. So bye. I'm going to stop recording now.
Okay, thank you.